It is at this time I am glad to introduce to many of you our John Sweeney. John Sweeney is the leader of our mortgage reduction task force. John Sweeney, he's been here since around 5 years old, a member of Holman United Methodist Church. Some of you know him as a legendary attorney, not only in Los Angeles, but across the United States of America. But even with his great, yes, let's give him a round of applause. And even in his legal expertise, he's learned to find rest in God.
Thank you for those very, very kind words, and the checks in the mail for your nice words. I bring you greetings on behalf of the Mortgage Reduction Committee. I am proud and pleased and happy to announce that today is the kickoff for our mortgage reduction campaign. And in all the church's years of existence, we've had a mortgage. And when you hear what I have to say, you will be happy to know that very soon, in the very near future, we will have no mortgage. We will burn the mortgage, and we can put that money that we've been paying on a monthly basis for all this time to use in our ministries. But before that, I talk about the specifics of what we need to burn the mortgage. Let me give you a little history lesson on our great church. I know a lot of you have been here for many, many years, and I think Reverend Walden asked me to do this because he knows that I'm one of the relics in the church who is a personal witness to the history of this church. So, with me, I was born in Washington, D.C., in the old Freedmen's Bureau Hospital when my father was in professional school at Howard University. And his father, my grandfather, Samuel Sweeney, was the pastor in the 40s and the 50s of the largest United Methodist Church in the United States, St. Mark's United Methodist Church in Harlem. And it was that and Abyssinian Baptist Church were the two most prestigious churches in Black America at that time. And my father went away to college in Atlanta and then went to professional school at Howard University. And he wasn't going back to New York City to practice law, nor was he going to stay in the South in Atlanta. He wanted to move like a lot of the population at the time, wanted to migrate west, and that's what he did. So what he did was he called his father and said, what is the United Methodist Church? He was raised in the rectory at St. Mark's in Harlem. What is the United Methodist Church, African American United Methodist Church in Los Angeles? He said, well, I know the pastor, L.L. White, and he gave L.L. White a call. And when we moved to California in the early to mid 1950s, we lived literally across the street. Back then, the church was the center of Black life. Still is in a lot of ways, but more so at that time. We lived on 2nd Avenue, directly across the street from the church, before they built the 10 freeway. That shows you how long I've been around, before they built the 10 freeway. And so we used to walk to church. And all that was on this campus, on this property, was the old Pepperdine mansion. Now, Mr. Pepperdine made his money in automotive supplies and the like, and this area was really, really prestigious, and it was really something for an African-American fledgling congregation to buy this mansion. put things in perspective, you know, across the street, there's the Wilfendale house. Did you know that the Will in Wilfendale is Della Williams, the wife of the great architect Paul R. Williams? She founded that club. It was a social club for, it still is a social club for women. And so this area was very, very prestigious for African Americans, and it was caused quite a stir when we bought this Spanish colonial revival mansion from the Pepperdines. And it was 1951 that we first acquired a mortgage, 1951. And by the time the Olympics roll around here in 2028, we will have paid off this mortgage. How about that? And I'll tell you how we're going to do it in a second. But the old Pepperdine Mansion, this is before the sanctuary, before the education building, before all these parking lots and walls and gardens and everything. It was a real mansion. As a matter of fact, I remember the old Double Ring Club, United Methodist Double Ring Club. Remember that? Yeah. We still have the Double Ring Club, don't we? Yeah, okay, all right. Anita Dunn, you? Yeah. Okay, we do have the Double Ring Club still. But I remember they had square dances when I was a little kid on the tennis court. And the tennis court was located down at the very low level of the parking lot. That's where the tennis court was. And then on Easter Sundays, we got out of what was called the sanctuary in the sanctuary in the Pepperdine Mansion, and there was an amphitheater, an actual amphitheater on this property that was located where the education building is, just west of that. And that's where we had Easter services. I remember dressing up. My parents dressed my brother and I up as, almost like twins because we're a year apart. And we had the services in the ballroom of this mansion. And you walked in, and there was this long porch that went from the length of the mansion in the front, and there were stairs on the east side and the west side, and you go into the church through the parlor, or the mansion through the parlor, and there were about 15 stairs down to this ballroom. That's what the sanctuary was. That's where we held our services, and we set up temporary chairs. That was in the 1950s. So we then decided we were outgrowing the place because the congregation was growing and growing. And that's when they asked, I was a child, the congregation, the parishioners, for money for this campaign they had to build this great sanctuary. And in 1958 or 59, I believe, the sanctuary was completed. This award-winning sanctuary was completed. And so we got another mortgage. We added to the mortgage. And then shortly thereafter, in the early 60s, they built the education building, and that added to the mortgage. And so lest you think we were just bought the mansion in 51 and we're just paying on it until now. No, we kept adding and building and building and building. And then finally our last structure that went up was the Lawson multipurpose building, and we raised the old Pepperdine Mansion, and it took almost an act of God to do that, because the historic preservation people fought us tooth and nail, but it served us no purpose, and it served the neighborhood no purpose. And so we got the Lawson multipurpose building built, and so we added to the mortgage. And so we've been doing a whole lot and paying off things and building and building. And so now it's time, and we're within reach, and I'll get into specifics in one second, we're within reach of paying this mortgage off. So what are the facts? Our current mortgage is $1.1 million. It's a lot of money, but not very much money for a congregation of our prestige, our size, and our history. In our pulpit, there have been some of the greatest peacemakers, civil rights leaders in the history of the world. We have 2 Nobel Prize winning preachers who have preached right there, 15 feet away from me. In 1968, I was sitting right in these pews when Martin Luther King spoke about a year before his assassination, and probably less than a year before his assassination, from this pulpit. And of course, Desmond Tutu, back in the 90s, I believe, spoke. So this is a very, very prestigious church, old church, and I know that we can raise the money that we need to, which I will tell you about now. As I said, the mortgage is $1.1 million. We've been paying $20,000 per month on the mortgage. But we recently refinanced the mortgage, and now we're paying, or we're eligible to pay $12,000 a month. How about that? How about that? But Holman being Holman, and our desire to pay this mortgage off so we can get on with God's work and use the $20,000 for other ministries, we have decided to continue to pay the $20,000 a month, because you homeowners know that most of the money on your mortgage goes to interest and not principal, not reducing the actual principal. So, yeah, so we're going to pay the $20,000 a month, and within 4 years, we will have paid off this mortgage. How about that? If we do the following, we need to make a payment of $200,000, a semi-balloon payment, by the end of this year, early next year. $200,000, and put it toward that $1.1 million. That puts us on course to pay this off in 4 years. And so the good news is we already have 70,000 of that 120 pledged. So a church with our history, and that's why I took the time to remind you, some of you, and to educate some of you about the history of our church, $140,000 is a lot of money, but it's not something that's insurmountable in this congregation, in this church, with this church's history. So, that's what we're looking for. That's what we need to do. Actually, yeah, $120,000. Is that right? Got 70, 200, 130. 130. We look for, see, I'm a lawyer, not a mathematician. So anyway, that's what we need, the $130. And here's what we can do to get it. We're asking each one of you to donate. We're asking you to go above and beyond your normal tithes and offerings and to give to our mortgage reduction campaign. And we can do that in one of 3 ways. We can, as you go out each Sunday, you can put a check into the basket and make sure that on the envelope or in the memo section of the check, it says mortgage reduction, so we know that your gift is aimed toward our campaign. Number 2, we have a website. You can go on the website and follow the prompts, and you can donate, and make sure that when you donate that you denote that it's for the mortgage reduction campaign. Or number 3, old school like myself, you can just mail it in. You can mail it in snail mail, but put in the memo, mortgage reduction. So we just think what we can do in 4 short years with that extra $20,000 per month. We can rebuild what was the greatest children's ministry in Los Angeles County. We can, and there were already plans afoot to do that. We can rebuild this great church as far as new members that we lost. A lot of the members during the pandemic and through attrition and passing on. We can do needed facilities repairs instead of deferring the maintenance on these edifices. For later years, we can make them almost immediately with the extra $20,000 a month. And most importantly, we can do our ministries. We can fund our ministries like we've never funded them before. How about a senior citizen ministry? How about senior housing? I know the congregation to the east of us and the congregation to the west of us. You pass by and you see apartments and senior facilities and things like that. Wouldn't it be great if Holman could buy up one of these apartment buildings and change it into senior housing, first for our parishioners? Yes, yeah, first for our parishioners and then for the public in general. A ministry that is really, really needed here at Holman to keep up with the times, with the aging population, because, as you know, the baby boomers, post-World War II generation, was the largest baby boom and population explosion in United States history. And guess what? You guys are getting old. Not me. You guys are getting old. So, anyway, finally, this is not just on our committee, our mortgage reduction committee. It's on all of us. So I am, even though I may be the sheriff, I'm deputizing everybody in this congregation, everybody who's watching on YouTube and listening on radio throughout the world. I'm deputizing you to donate, to talk to people, to give, and tell them the importance of preserving our great church, and tell them about some of the things you learned and some of the things that you experienced here in church, from the births to the baptism to the funerals. Holman's doors have always been open, and we will be mortgage-free in about 3 or 4 years with your help. Thank you for your time.